Oncers, it's Minx from Average Geek, and it's that time again. Another Sunday has come past, and Once Upon a Time has continued on. Um, so, your spoiler warning if you haven't watched this week's episode, I believe it's episode 5, uh, don't watch this video until you've actually watched that episode. As you can tell, I have my new headset, finally, so the sound should be a lot clearer and more crisp. So hopefully we can keep that going. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in. This episode focused a lot more on Henry and his relationship with Violet, which I actually really liked. I was glad to actually step away from a lot of the Arthur-centric stories. He was a lot more of a side role, almost a cameo role. Um, there was a lot of great little Easter eggs and story things. We actually saw how Merlin became a tree, which was kind of cool because I was kind of wondering how that happened, especially with the fact that he had shown up in Emma's past. You actually get to see he got turned that way because he was facing down the Dark One, about to end him, and then he had this realization and ended up crying, and the Dark One used his tear against him, which was a little. But, I'll give it a pass. My guess is that the Dark One at the time turned out to be whoever his love interest was. That is my guess for that. My theory. My theorem! Um, Turns out Emma actually used a dream catcher to see this. Now, dream catchers are actually a really huge plot device in this episode. And the way I look at it, Emma's actually. The dream catchers are to Emma what the straw to gold was to Rumple. I think it's how she keeps herself busy, because there's that constant having to do something. The original one is really similar to the one that Neil gave her, which I thought was kind of a cool callback to previous seasons. And the introduction of the Dreamcatchers, especially when they showed a bunch of them, I felt was a good tie-in to Neil because she does have some of those leftover feelings that she hasn't completely reconciled, even though she's kind of moved on to Hook. Um, so that was kind of cool. Um, there was, like I said, a lot more focus on Henry. Uh, they end up talking, him and Emma end up talking because he enlists her to help him find Violet's horse. And they start talking about, oh, how'd you catch her attention? And he goes, oh, we like the same music. And she goes, oh, what did you use? And he said, only you. And Emma guessed that he learned that from his dad. In the parallel story in Camelot, Regina and Emma kind of give him the lesson of you should just be yourself. So we kind of got lessons from both sides of his parentage, um, as well as his adopted parent, which I thought was really cool. Getting to see that. Get to see Henry's kind of softer, suave side, where he made a candlelit dinner for him and Violet, which was awesome. Very adorable. Introduces her to Pepsi, to which she was like, oh, it's like a carnival in a can, which I thought was adorable. Good stuff all around. In the real world, the group of Robin, Belle, Regina, and Hook actually managed to break into Emma's house while she's off helping Henry with the horse. And they end up finding Excalibur. So they know of the existence of Excalibur in their world at this point. They know that she took gold and that gold was down there. They also end up, because of Hook, end up finding the main Dreamcatcher, which they end up using later on at the very end in a really kind of heartbreaking scene. There was a small Easter egg and shout out to Peter the Pumpkin Eater with Peter's Pumpkin Patch, which is where they end up rescuing the horse, which is pretty adorable. It was just kind of an adorable episode. I find that the more scenes they have with Merida, the sadder I am of how they wrote her. I think the actress who's playing Merida is doing just fine. She's doing fine with what they've given her, but I think that the scenes so far have been somewhat lackluster. Um, I haven't really been buying them too much. It's not it's not what I hoped they would be. I thought they'd be a lot more powerful. Now I have higher hopes for next week's episode because it looks like they're going to be featuring more of that, and we actually get to see a bear. Um, there's some stuff she pretty much is supposed to take Gold out into the woods and get him to be brave, and he pretty much is just, back to being the non-brave guy that he was in the past. And she ends up, vowing to find the thing that he'll fight for, and actually ended up sneaking into Regina's office and taking a look at the storybook. So we actually got to see the storybook again, which is kind of nice. And ends up finding about the chipped teacup, and brings that out and is taunting him with it and goading him with it and pissed him off. So he actually swung the sword, and they kind of fight a little bit, but nothing really major. I mean, Gold is partially crippled, so I mean there isn't a whole lot of movement he can really get away with doing. But you end up finding out that Merida's plan, even though Emma has her heart and is kind of controlling her, Merida's plan is actually to get Gold to fight and take on Emma. Now that could be Emma's ultimate plan. I mean, it very well could be. But it also could be Merida trying to get out of this whole deal and hopefully get back to her land. So that's kind of up in the air. I mean, it could be a good twist to have that be Emma's plan all along, because every hero needs a baddie to go against to prove their bravery. So that's very well interesting. Once discovering that Merlin got trapped in the tree by the Dark One using his own feelings and tears against him, they end up devising a plan that's like the final thing they need to put into the potion to free him from the thing. Well, they invoke an old memory of Daniel to try and get Regina to cry, and ends up Henry, although he was quite suave and kind-hearted and romantical, ends up getting his heart broken. He gets rejected and friend-zoned by Violet. They end up using his tears instead. Totally works. Light and dark magic together again. Cats and dogs living together. And they end up freeing Merlin. And Merlin pretty much puts Arthur in his place and is like, bitch, put that shit away, because you know it ain't gonna hurt me. No, this isn't over. So that was cool. But the main twist is at the very end, when using that main dream catcher that they found in her house, they discover that Emma actually took Violet's heart temporarily and is the one who made her break Henry's heart, which was just absolutely horrifically heartbreaking. I feel really bad for Henry. Henry ended up seeing this as well, so he's mad at Mom. Regina figures out, oh, you set up the whole horse going away. And they have this little kind of catty moment with each other where they're just sniping back and forth at each other. Wasn't the best back and forth that I've ever seen Regina do, or Emma for that matter. That's pretty much it. I gave the line of the episode to Merlin, because after he comes out of the tree and he releases David and Snow from their spell from the Sands of Avalon, and they were like, oh, we were expecting somebody older, and he straight up is just like, kind of deadpan, is like, well, what can I say, being a tree is good for your skin. I thought that was probably the funniest line in there. Funny little Easter egg that I thought was just amusing was towards the beginning of the episode. You actually see Corella's car parked on the street, and it has "for sale" written on the windshield, which I thought was really awesome. It was a good callback to also a previous season. So yeah, the episode I would actually give probably a B. There was the Merida scenes were a little more weak than I wanted. I like the fact that they focus more on Henry. I'm glad we got away from Arthur, but I still think Arthur's kind of a asshat. I liked the little things, the little details like Peter's pumpkin patch and, the for sale sign on Cruella's car, things like that. I liked the fact that they brought dream catchers back in such a huge way, and I saw a parallel between that and the straw spinning that Rumpel used to do. Um, like I said, there was too much of the episode that was a little on the weak sauce side, for me to actually give it an A. So we're gonna go with a solid B. I look forward to next week because it looks like we're gonna get some actual, real brave Merida action. I feel like the all the stuff with Merida is just circling around the name of her movie, so kind of weak sauce. But yeah, solid B. Line of the thing goes to Merlin. Being a tree is good for your skin. Pretty awesome. Yeah, so that's it. I hope to see you next week for another review on Once Upon a Time. As always, like and subscribe for your chance to win a subscription box of your very own. And later, Oncers.